All right, hello guys. I'm here today with senior rock climber Will Everett, and we're kind of here just to get an idea about what all competitive rock climbing is all about. And so, Will, how does this rock climbing thing work?
So basically, Embrick, for a competition, we have competitions on Tuesdays, and we'll compete against a single school. So we'll enter an Earth Treks climbing gym, whether it be in Rockville or Columbia, and we'll enter it. There'll be a rundown on the rules, which climbs we can do, which climbs we can't do, what specifics about the climb are on and off, whether or not you're allowed to use cracks, whether or not you're allowed to use medians, etc. And basically, there's rankings for each specific wall. So you have 5 intro, which is the easiest in a rock climbing gym, and then you have 5.6, which is a little bit more difficult.
Right.
And it basically just goes up until 13. B or C, whatever the rock climbing gym allows as their most difficult or has as their most difficult climb. And say I were to complete a 510A. A 510A would be, say, 5 points, but a 510B would be 6.
Right.
So it really varies just on the difficulty of the climb. And in competitions, the timing, how fast you complete the climb, it does not matter. As long as you get to the top of the wall, you're all good. But if you do fall at any point in the wall, you have to come all the way back down and restart.
Okay, so if you fall, do you just go back up and try it again? Is there an amount of times you can keep doing it or something like that?
That's a good question. There's an unlimited amount of times that you can climb a wall, but the thing you have to think about is the fatigue, because you're climbing and your forearms are just burning, and you have to kind of plan out strategically which walls you want to climb, which get the easier climbs out of the way first, and then sort of progress to the harder ones. And you don't want to be stuck on a hard one all day, because then you're just gonna work yourself out.
And how many walls do you climb per competition? Does it vary based off of ability? Is it kind of everyone does the same amount, or is it the better people do more? What's kind of like that?
At competitions, it depends on the competition. There could be a top rope competition where you have to get 3 top rope climbs. And ideally, you're trying to go for your most difficult climb. But there are also boulder competitions where you try to get your 3 most difficult boulders. And then there's a combination of the two. Generally, it's 2 boulders and then a top rope climb. So you can do as many climbs as you want in a competition, but they're only scoring your 3 best.
Oh, okay. And so, what made you decide to start this whole rock climbing experience?
So I have been relatively interested in climbing ever since I went to this camp in Wyoming called TVRC, Teton Valley Ranch Camp. And it all started when I climbed the Grand Teton. And that was my first introduction to climbing on a big mountain scale. And
that's obviously a lot different than rock climbing. It's going up a whole entire mountain.
But it's a relatively easy climb. The Grand is like 5'4", 5'5", so it's not too difficult, but it's the exposure that kind of gets to you. And I wanted to do the Grand at first because I was afraid of heights. And I wanted to conquer that fear, so a couple friends of mine asked if I wanted to come along, and I said yes, and I fell in love with it. And actually the following year, I climbed the Grand again, and then the second that Bullis offered rock climbing for me and I wasn't doing lacrosse, I decided to embark on the journey.
Well, that's interesting. That's a real bold way to kind of conquer your fears of heights, go up thousands of feet up a mountain. And so, how, like you said, the judging, you basically you get the same amount of points. Is that kind of how it works for rock climbing, just total points kind of, and you add those up over time?
Yeah. So when you're competing, for the professional rock climbers, it's done more on an individual scale. So it's one climber's score against another's. But when you're competing on the high school level, there's, say, 13 climbers on a team. The team numbers can vary, but you only take your 5 best climbers' scores. So it's Bullis' score with their 5 best boy climbers and their 5 best girl climbers. And then there's the opposing school's score with their 5 boys and 5 girls. So a lot of times you might not be the one who's advancing or whose score is being considered. But yeah.
And so I know that obviously you talked about climbing the Grand Teton, which is in Wyoming for all the guys that don't know. And I know you're an outdoorsy person, so where do you like to travel? What do you like to do when you travel?
That's a great question. So for me, I am a mountains guy over beaches, if you couldn't tell already. But I really am into photography. So wildlife photography is a big hobby of mine. I'll go out to Jacksonville, Wyoming fairly often, which is where the Grand is. And I'll try to shoot some bison, elk, bald eagles, owls, moose, all of the above. And that's in my mind, that's the best way to kind of hit the restart button and just refresh.
Yeah, do you go there a couple times a year kind of just to do photography and then kind of other times just to have a little bit of fun?
It depends in the year. It depends on what my family wants to do. So sometimes I'll go twice a year, sometimes I'll go 4 times a year. It really just varies.
Okay, and kind of transitioning to other things, what other activities do you do here at Bullis or outside of school that you enjoy also doing your time? Obviously, you do the wildlife photography, but you're probably more than just a photographer.
Yeah, absolutely. So I also am the captain of the varsity soccer team here at Bullis, and I was on the lacrosse team, IFC Champs 2018. I was on the lacrosse team last year and the year before. But now I'm going to be embarking on a new journey with track and field, and I'm excited to do that.
That should be interesting. You want to run or kind of do the more field aspect of it?
I want to run. Yeah.
That should be an interesting challenge. Always good to take new risks. And so, do you have an idea what you want to do after you leave Bullis? Kind of like varies of what you want to study. Do you have any idea with that, or are you just kind of going with the flow?
Unfortunately, I don't have a specific idea, but I would like to pursue something in the field of business, and also advertising.
All right, well, Will, thank you for explaining rock climbing to all of us, because we've obviously not all of us, but a lot of us haven't been to any rock climbing events. We've seen people do it, free climbers, but thank you for explaining that to us, and best of luck to you in the future.
Thank you, Amber. It's great talking to you.
Great talking to you as well.